I was raised by my mother, who had me at 20. My biological father, uninterested in parenthood, left after a brief relationship with her. She told me their breakup was bitter, and she chose not to pursue child support, finding it easier to cut ties completely. Thankfully, my grandparents provided unwavering support, helping her complete her education and secure a job. She dated a few men during my childhood, but when I was 8, she started seeing Harry, a colleague. They dated for over 3 years before marrying. Harry and I weren't particularly close, but we coexisted peacefully enough. When my mother became pregnant 4 years into their marriage, the news brought joy to everyone, including me. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. But I was naive, believing my mother would always stand by me after raising me alone through tough times. After marrying Harry, she grew distant, and our relationship began to fray. I thought it was temporary, something that would pass. During her pregnancy, I tried to be supportive, but she seemed increasingly irritated by my presence. To avoid conflict, I made myself scarce, thinking it would help. But it wasn't enough. 6 months after she gave birth to twins, she and Harry sat me down for a serious talk. I was 16, still a minor, and they told me they couldn't keep me in their home anymore because they needed to focus on their 2 new children. They framed it as a financial issue, claiming their modest income as web engineers couldn't support a teenager and 2 infants. But we'd been living comfortably, so I doubted their reasoning. It felt like they just wanted me gone. I suggested getting a part-time job to ease any burden, but my mother dismissed it, saying they needed to save resources for the twins, who deserved it more. That word, deserved, stung. It made it clear I was no longer wanted. Realizing I wasn't welcome, I left for my grandparents' house that day. It wasn't a legal eviction, but it felt like one. They'd maneuvered me into a corner, leaving me no choice. My grandparents were upset with my mother's actions, but stayed in touch with her to maintain a relationship with the twins. At 16, I started working part-time to support myself, as my elderly grandparents couldn't fully provide for me. When my mom and Harry visited with the twins, they barely acknowledged me, acting formal and indifferent, as if my absence made them happier. It hurt to see my mother's mood improve without me, but I accepted it. I lived with my grandparents until college. My mother wasn't involved in my transition to university, so friends helped me settle into my dorm, as my grandparents were too frail to assist. I took out a student loan, co-signed by an uncle, because my mother and Harry refused to contribute, prioritizing the twins' future. My uncle agreed to co-sign on the condition that he wouldn't be financially responsible. I worked through college to cover expenses and avoid falling behind on loan payments, determined to build a stable future. After graduating, I moved out to avoid burdening my grandparents. My early career years were tough, with a modest income covering rent, utilities, groceries, and loan repayments while saving a little for the future. That, to me, was living on a tight budget. Over time, my hard work paid off. I climbed the ranks in my company and at 33 secured a senior management role, a significant achievement I kept private, sharing it only with a few close contacts, including my uncle, to thank him for his past support. Unbeknownst to me, my uncle mentioned my success to my mother at a family gathering, encouraging her to reach out and congratulate me. I hadn't spoken to her since starting college, having cut contact after realizing she wouldn't change. She didn't seem to care, and I avoided discussing her with my grandparents, who respected my boundaries. I later learned from my mother and Harry, who showed up at my doorstep, that they'd been struggling financially for years. I let them in, hoping they'd come to reconcile, not realizing they had ulterior motives. Instead of offering congratulations, they expressed surprise that I hadn't shared my promotion news, as if I owed them updates. They were upset I'd cut them out, claiming they'd only prioritized their twins because I was old enough to understand. They argued I shouldn't have resented them or moved in with my grandparents, insisting I should have supported their decision to focus on their new family. I was stunned they expected me to endorse being pushed out. They revealed their failed business venture had left them in debt, and with the twins nearing college age, they needed money. They had the audacity to suggest I could make amends by funding my half-sibling's education, framing it as a favor to me. Furious, I reminded them I'd worked through college and paid my own way because they'd refused to help, prioritizing the twins who deserved it more. I told them they had no right to expect anything from me after abandoning me. When they wouldn't leave, I threatened to call the police. They countered, accusing me of being difficult and overly sensitive as a teenager, claiming I'd been a burden. They argued I was ungrateful for not helping now, dismissing the 18 years they'd ignored me. My mother insisted she'd sacrificed so much raising me alone, guilt-tripping me for not supporting her now. I stood firm, and after a heated argument, they left, with her accusing me of painting her as the villain when I was the selfish one. This encounter left me questioning if I was too harsh or if my mother was manipulating me. I shared my story on Reddit to seek impartial opinions. Aita for refusing to pay for my half-sibling's college tuition when my estranged mother and stepfather are struggling financially. I confronted my uncle about sharing my success with my mother without my consent. Though his intentions were good, it caused this mess. He apologized profusely, unaware of their financial struggles or how my mother would react. He admitted he shouldn't have interfered, and since he helped me with my college loan, I forgave him. His heart was in the right place, and I won't cut him off, but I made it clear his actions weren't okay. I also spoke to my grandparents, who support me and agree it's unfair for my mother to pressure me. They've stayed in touch with her for the twins' sake, but are now reconsidering their stance. My mother has been emailing me every other day since our confrontation 9 days ago, trying to guilt me by listing all she did for me growing up. I don't owe her for raising me. That was her legal obligation, and she pushed me out when it suited her. I responded once, reiterating my perspective, but she called me ungrateful again. I blocked her email, but she created a new one to keep harassing me. I'll keep blocking her until she stops. This ordeal has given me closure, confirming she and Harry are incapable of remorse. I'm done hoping for reconciliation. My mother escalated things by showing up at my workplace. Luckily, I was home sick that day. The receptionist called, saying my mother refused to leave despite being told I wasn't there. On the phone, I warned her I'd sue if she caused a scene, emphasizing my employer wouldn't hesitate to take legal action. She agreed to leave if I met her in person, but I refused, and she left quietly. To prevent this from happening again, I'm consulting a lawyer about my options, including a possible restraining order. Days later, she ambushed me outside my home. When I threatened to call the police, she attacked me, knocking my phone away and blaming me for her life's problems. Shocked, I overpowered her, being younger and fitter. Neighbors heard the commotion, intervened, and called the police. I pressed charges, and my lawyer is now securing a restraining order. Harry reportedly took the twins to his parents' house, confronting my mother about her behavior. She's alienated everyone, including my grandparents, who've cut contact. I'm planning to move to a bigger home and move on with my life, hoping she seeks help, but refusing to feel guilty for her choices. Thank you for watching Story. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories.